Never in a million years did I think we'd be out here in the middle of July, taking down a fence line in the middle of one of our fields, but here we are. The reason we're taking it down, which I'm not really taking it down right now, that is, I'm videoing, but the reason we're taking it down is because this over here is our cornfield that after our 13-inch rain event we had just over 3 weeks ago, it wiped out, I'm guessing, somewhere between 40 and 50 acres of corn. You can't see it all. It bends around a little bit over there. And since we're not able to pull the planter out in a standing corn crop that's 4 or 5 feet tall, the neighbor's field over here, which is soybeans, also had some that drowned out. So he was nice enough. We asked him if we took out part of the fence, if we'd be able to bring our planter through over on his part of the field and then get to our spot of the field. So that way we're able to fill this spot in with some new soybeans. Before we can bring the planter out to this field, we first got to make sure that the conditions are going to be dry enough. Although it's been 3 weeks since we had all the heavy rain, we've had some small intermittent rain showers in between. And the last thing we want to do is get the planter stuck out here. So we're just going to drive around, make sure everything's going to be dry enough and fit to plant soybeans out here. See, this is what you can see from the road, but back there you can't see a lot of that stuff. And it goes all the way up to this other intake. In this drowned out spot, we also have a lot of corn that looks like this. The corn's really short, really light colored, looks awfully sickening. And the reality is corn like this is not going to put an ear on it at all because the water got so high and there was dirt inside the water that was so high that dirt went down the top swirl up the corn plant. So all these corn plants are not going to grow an ear or anything. So even when we do get out here at the planter, we're going to end up knocking down some corn with the planter, which is also going to be a first for us because not very often are you interseeding soybeans into a standing corn crop. So we'll have to see what that looks like and how the planter can hold up when we get the planter out here. Now we came on another side of that field. Let me show you guys what happened here. Big, massive tile washout right at the edge of the field. It's a good 4 or 5 foot deep. Still a bunch of water down here. We'll have to come back in the fall, fix it, start filling it in, but what a mess. It is the next day now. There was still a couple tacky spots out in that cornfield, which is why we waited one more day to put some soybeans out there. Dad's actually loading up the planter right now behind me. I jumped inside the cab here. He said that for some reason our 2020 and the iPad wasn't recognizing the planter, so I'm gonna make sure that's working. For some reason, he is right. All of our row units are lit up in red here on the display, so for some reason we don't have power going back from the tractor back to each one of the row units. This should all be green. Obviously there's a break in the chain, so I take out my phone, use the Precision Planting app, which I can punch in where the break is on the chain from where we're going from green, good things happening, to bad, red things happening. And a lot of times it'll give me a list of things that I need to go through and check, which hopefully will solve the problems here for today. The screen was telling me I didn't have any power to any of the row units, and the way the system works is it works in a set of chains. So I first started testing rows 1 through 10. None of them started to light up, so then I started to check some of the fuses on 1 through 10. Still had problems, which means we're having an electrical issue, or more than likely. So now we're going to start popping off. Dad's taking off our PDM, so our power distribution module. That takes the power from the tractor, sends it back here to the planter. We got another one here that we're going to try wiring up, and hopefully that solves the problem we're having of not getting any power here on the row units.
I can do whatever you want here.
I would just...
I got everything off.
I would have took it off at the connections.
Here?
That goes to that one. The new PDM's installed on the planter. It's time to give it a go. Moment of truth. Bingo, everything's green, everything's good. Now that the PDM's working here, I just got 4 little small bolts that bolt this down onto the frame of the planter we gotta get put on, and then we'll head out to the field. Dad's heading out with the planter. Eventually we're gonna need the seed tender out there because it's obviously gonna be more than 40 acres that we're filling in. So I'm gonna head out there with the Ranger right now to see how things can get started and hopefully kick Dad out of the planter eventually. Here's the reason why we needed to ask the neighbor to go through his field, because as you can tell, the beans are a lot shorter crop compared to the corn. And this allows us to bring the planter down to the drown down spot without running over any crop, unlike what we would have to do in the cornfield. Crossing over the fence line now. This is that fence we took out just so we can get over to our side of the field. It's still just a little bit tacky in this one specific spot, but there's supposed to be more rain on the way. So where he's folding out up there, we're gonna get started. And we are off planting now. This is a first. Seeding some soybeans into a cornfield, running down a little bit of corn that's not gonna grow in here anyway. So we're knocking some of that down, making the first outside pass. Gonna be 24 rows around the outside, then start to figure out what's gonna be the best way to start filling things in on the interior of the drowned out spot. Here's a look at some of the corn plants we're running over. As you can tell, the flag leaf is all broke off, the corn's all stripped up. Corn like this, it might actually put an ear on it, but it's not gonna have any grain that we're actually gonna wanna harvest. So we're planting a good 6 rows into the corn that looks like junk. It's kind of a give or take. Since we're not wanting to run over corn that's actually gonna grow grain and have something for us to harvest, but we do wanna make sure in spots where there is nothing growing and where that corn isn't going to yield anything, we're putting soybeans. That way we at least have some sort of cover out here the rest of the growing season. So that's the goal with the planter. So here's the outside 48 rows that Dad just completed with the planter. In total, we're already 14.3 acres in just the outside pass. Now I gotta fill in everything in between, so I'm just gonna snap a line that's gonna be not straight. It'll be a straight line, but it's not gonna be 180 degrees or 90. It's just gonna be off in this direction, since that looks like it'll be the easiest way to fill in this the quickest. And here we go. July 15th or something is today's date. We're still planting soybeans. Another thing that's come to my mind as I'm sitting here seeding soybeans in the middle of one of our cornfields that drowned it out is how much of a pain this could potentially be come harvest. And that's because normally when we harvest, we first start harvesting soybeans because they freeze, the plant dies, and the soybeans are just ready to harvest before the corn is dried down. And having all these soybeans we're planting out in this field be completely surrounded by corn, it could get interesting come this fall, because we basically are going to have no way to get our combine, the head, the grain cart down to this spot of the field to combine. So just another one of the logistic things that goes into all the flooding that we've had and all these replants that we're doing. I've now finished replanting soybeans out in the middle of this cornfield. In total here, it's telling me I replanted 22.8 acres. Here's the big shape of everything I replanted out there. I have to admit, I thought there was more acres out here that needed to be replanted. It looks like a large area. It definitely looked ugly when I first came out here after the large rain event, but 22 acres is still no joke. I mean, 22 acres times 200 bushel corn is over 4,400 bushels of corn that we lost out here. Take that times an average harvest price of say $4. It's over $17,000 lost of revenue just from this one drowned out spot that thankfully we were able to replant soybeans into, which aren't going to be as profitable, but still one of the many drowned out spots in our cornfields was over $17,000 hit on revenue. But now that I got our field replanted, because the neighbor was so nice and allowed us to take down the fence, allowed us to go through his field, I asked him the least I could do is help replant some of his field. So now I'm going to take the planter, drive it through the fence that we took down yesterday, and we're just going to stub in some more soybeans over here for him to help him out and to say thank you for allowing us to get down here to replant our field. Planter drop down, putting down 165,000 seeds per acre, and here we go, plant the neighbor's field. Replanting the neighbor's drowned out spot here. In total he had 7 acres is what it told me inside the cab that I replanted. Made a bunch of zigzag patterns. Now I'm gonna fold up. I have one more field. This is the last field I'm gonna be replanting, at least I hope, for this summer, and it's a half mile in that direction, so I'm gonna fold up and then head down to that field and fill in the last field of the year. This field, again, similar to the last one of ours, has corn in it, and we had some corn down here that drowned it out. And as you can tell, we also have some corn here. This is like super short stature corn. No, this corn is actually just damaged because of how much rain we had. And because it's gonna be too late to plant corn, we're gonna put some more soybeans out here just for a cover crop, and so it helps suppress some of the weeds. So I'm gonna get this filled in, and it shouldn't take very long because I'm guessing it's probably less than 2 acres. My guess was a lot closer on this field, and it came in at right at 0.9 acres of soybeans at this drowned out spot that I replanted. Well, I am finally done now replanting everything for the 3rd time of the year, and there will not be a 4th time that we will bring the planter out to a field this year because, number one, it's already getting too late. It's already too late to really replant this stuff the 3rd time because we're taking a risk on these soybeans. Not sure if they're going to yield anything. It's really just kind of see how the rest of the season plays, which if you want to see how the rest of the growing season plays out, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below because who knows, those soybeans we planted in the middle of the corn, what that's gonna look like come harvest. Maybe it's a hassle, maybe not. The only way to know is to live and find out. With that, that's it for today's video of High Tech Farmer. Thanks so much for watching. See ya in the next one.